Well, I am back again and trying a longer format. For this video, I will be drawing from the lectionary, and if you haven't heard that term before, think of it as a daily reading. So the daily reading for this Sunday has us focus on John 9. The book of John is a wonderful book, and if you got time in the next few weeks, which I know you do, and if you find yourself lying around the house, which many of you might be doing right now, or if you find yourself being kept in your house, which I know that's probably going on for you right now, then maybe try reading the book of John, or Lamentations, or art, I don't know, or go for a walk. The beginning of John 9. As he went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." Now, if you continue reading, Jesus heals this man, but I want to focus just on these verses with a few other passages that seem to kind of connect with each other. John in many ways is self-referential. John 9 relates to John 1. John 9 has Jesus declaring himself as the light of the world, and we know by looking at John 1 that in him was life, and that life was the light of all humanity. John lets us know that there is this Jesus as this light, as life, as a source of creation, or maybe thinking differently, a new creation. That creation and hope is birthed in both kind of mystery and even chaos. So Jesus gives an interesting answer to a crazy question. But this crazy question is one we see all the time. Who is at fault here, the parents or the man? Who is at fault that God would punish them with disability? Did the parents smoke too many cigarettes or let him have too much screen time when he was just a youngin'? Or was it when the son wanted to borrow the horse and go out gallivanting around town and the parents were all like, "Be back by 9 p.m. and he was like, "How do you even know how to tell time yet?" And they were all like, "You should honor us." But before really addressing the question and the answer, I want to focus on a central claim. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent Jesus. To substantiate the answer, Jesus lets his disciples know that as long as it is daytime, disciples must always do the work of the Lord. Regardless of what the day looks or feels like, we must do the work of the Father. If that day is filled with fear or isolation, continue to work on behalf of the Lord. Christians do the work of the Lord. Regardless of the current reality, do the work of the Lord. Now, I'll be honest, for myself, it is more fun to focus on the question, who sinned? Who is at fault? As much as I don't want to believe in God punishing someone for a behavior, it still is kind of fun. It is more fun to watch someone who is being mean to someone else trip as they were walking down the street. It is fun to tease out the idea that God might have got them good because of what they did. It is fun to think we know God did that. It satiates a desire to know they kind of got what they deserved. For myself, it is easier to believe that if I only do good, then only good things will happen. Or for those who do bad, then they get what they deserve. But there have been times where I have tried to encourage someone only to have that received without gratitude. And there have been times where I have broken the speed limit and there was no consequence. Sometimes doing good doesn't guarantee goodness. Sometimes doing something bad doesn't promise consequence. Sometimes it turns out to be good. And we could kind of chase the rabbit on this logic, and that is another discussion for another time that maybe I'll make a different video on. However, John 9 makes me identify with the disciples. It is more fun to talk with other disciples and speculate why misfortune is on someone else. Well, you know, if they just tried harder, or paid their bills a little bit better, or their marriage talked a little bit more, or prayed more, or blah, 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 blah. And in that moment, we have to be very careful, because in that moment, sometimes we are ascribing God's character as it is tied to that person's misfortune. And although I said it earlier, it needs to be said again. Sometimes by doing good, bad things still happen, and sometimes while people do bad, they still have good happen. So back to the passage. John lets us know that Jesus is the light and that in him is life. John is focused on Jesus being the source of a new creation. John 1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Also, as soon as you are done reading John during our potential, what feels like a 14-year time off from people stuck in these walls, read Genesis while you're at it. Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. There was this formlessness, darkness, water, which was chaos, this depth that had no form. And God's presence was there hovering over the chaos, and then God spoke creation. These passages help us have a better understanding of what is going on in Jesus' answer to the disciples. There's something a little bit larger at play, something about creation and hope that is birthed in mystery and chaos. So Jesus looks at the disciples and says, "This happened so that the works of God might be displayed." And I want to lean into that concept just a little bit. This current reality is existing so something new, something hopeful, something of a future might actually come. This current reality that feels dark and chaotic exists so that form and hope and light and creation comes from it. Our current reality exists so that we can look to where the work of God might be displayed. I feel like that as a person, it is not good enough for me. Someone who is locked in these walls, someone who looks outside these walls and sees chaos right now, sees what feels like minimal hope, sees a lot of blame. Where is there chaos going on in my life? I mean, this week we were supposed to have our Pinewood Derby, and if you don't know what the Pinewood Derby is, it is a chance for kids to take a block of wood, put wheels on it, and throw it down a ramp and scream really loud. Yeah, we are that church. We make little cars that scoot down ramps and hand out awards for it. We were supposed to still have our regular support groups meet. We were supposed to still have my Sunday school class meet. Oh, and by the way, I'm fun in Sunday school. I never really arrive at any point, and all I try to do is invite myself over to people's homes so that they can feed me. And it's chaos right now. It feels like a dark time. But it is not just about me. I've read that people who are impoverished have their electricity and heat turned off right now, in some cases during this pandemic. They're speculating if things continue, job loss could reach maybe 20%. There is chaos and what feels like formlessness. And I want to blame. I know who to blame, who is at fault in many ways. We could have been better prepared in this nation. We could have been better prepared as a civilization. We as people don't need to hoard or panic buy. And I want to blame others because I can't visit nursing homes or hospitals when there are new births. I feel like I know who is at fault. I don't need the disciples asking who sinned because I feel like I already know. And I dwell on this chaos. I dwell on the fact that kids won't laugh this week from throwing wood blocks down a ramp. I dwell on people losing their jobs, and I kind of want, honestly, to see God punish someone. Right now, I am like one of those disciples. Actually, I'm a little bit farther back. I am like the guy just seeing what the other people are doing around Jesus. And they say, who sinned, the parents or the child? And it's not about sin. Right now, our current reality exists so that we can see where the work of God is displayed. All reality exists for us to see where the work of God is being displayed, and we don't stop doing the work of Him who sent Jesus. So in this current reality of virus and death, is God still at work? Well, I invite you to look to where the works of God is displayed. The church that I am at is figuring this out as best as we can. We are figuring out what it would look like to help those in financial need, as well as making sure that the joy of children's faces throwing cars down a ramp can exist one day. I've read countless stories of doctors and nurses, those in medical areas. I see the work of God displayed in communities that suit up and serve those who are infected or in need. I see the work of God displayed in families learning how to care for one another. I've seen the works of God displayed in some of even our leaders who are calling people in their immediate neighborhood, finding out what their needs are and attempting to meet with them to deliver goods or be in prayer. In the midst of this fear, when I am focused on blaming other leaders or whoever, I've seen the work of God displayed through acts of mercy, showing up in hospitals, food deliveries, municipalities not shutting off water or electricity. I think it is there. I think the work of God is there. I think the people are still doing the work of the Lord. In the next week, what would it look like for you to see the work of God in the midst of this time? All right, I'll make more videos later. Okay, bye!